Thanks for tuning in today. Today is a very special day, and it's a lot more special than all those other special days I told you about in the past, because now we have a new Redcat vehicle, the Marksman, to talk about. And I will let you know I'm pretty excited about this one. So as you can see, I put on my best shirt today for this review. And this is going to be an overview of the rig. I have driven in before. I helped Redcat get the electronics set up on this particular vehicle. So this isn't really a fair review as the, first time I've ever seen it. And I'm also not going to do an unboxing for it because I personally believe that just pulling something out of a box is not that exciting. So what I want to do is talk about everything on this rig, maybe give a couple of misconceptions, some proper information to tell you what this actually is, and then we are going to go out in the next video and wheel it. So let us get into the basics of it. This is a truck that is essentially based off the chassis of the Wendigo. However, that would be a poor assumption to make if you think, hey, I already have the Wendigo, I shouldn't get one of these because it's basically the same vehicle. It is not actually the case. Although it does share the axles, the basic chassis, and the transmission of the setup, it actually doesn't drive at all the same. And I'll get into why this is the case. But as you can see, it is a little bit longer wheelbase than the Wendigo. It's actually a little bit wider than the Wendigo, and the body actually has a wider stance to it, if you will, than the Wendigo as well. We take these bodies off, and you can see on the underneath side, they look like essentially the same vehicle. One big difference on the chassis though is that the Wendigo is just the basic chassis and the Marksman actually has chassis extension rails on there. So our body posts don't line up, and that also means that our shock locations do not line up. So just the way that it is, they use, let's see, shorter shocks on the rear, it looks like, maybe the same shocks on the front. I couldn't tell you if the spring rates are the same offhand. They look to be very similar, but the suspension and the way that this body rolls is completely different than the Wendigo. I actually set up my Wendigo as a crawler, and I wasn't extremely impressed with it compared to most crawlers of the day. It's great as far as going from a rock racer to a crawler, and knowing how stout that these are with rock racing components in it, it lets me know that the Marksman is actually going to be an extremely stout vehicle. So let's talk about the other features that it has. It comes with these licensed tires, the Interco. Not a full-size guy, so you'll have to let me know, what model that is if that's not the actual model of it. But my testing on my powdery limestone out there, they got it just right. A fantastic compound. These things feel great. You can hear that they're straight out of the factory mold. There has not been any removal of the mold release or anything like that. And they got the foam on these just right for the weight of the vehicle. I was really impressed, and I'll let you know right now that if I was not impressed with this vehicle, I would not have collaborated with them on the electronic setup. So next thing, the electronic setup. It comes with a 25 kilogram Hexfly digital servo. It comes with a Hobbywing 1080 controller, which in my opinion could use a different program on it. It comes with a program box, and it also comes with a Crawlmaster Sport 550 13-turn motor along with a 9-tooth pinion. And this is a setup that I tested a lot in the Wendigo, but I also put this guy through its paces, not just on trails, but in riprap. Heavy crawling. I wanted to make sure that whatever system was selected, that it didn't get too hot. It didn't get mushy on the throttle. It didn't get soft. Because the one disadvantage that this platform has is a lack of gear down. It's not too much of a lack of gear down, but it's enough of a lack of gear down that you really can't go any faster on a brushed motor. If you do plan to replace your electronics on this with other brush setups, I would recommend not going any faster than the 13-turn 550 in a 5-slot, that would be a Crawlmaster type, or a 27-turn 550 in a Trailmaster or Torquemaster type, and that's the 3-slot type of motor. So just my recommendations, keep that gearing that you have on there and make sure it's a slow enough motor that you don't overheat. And this is all tested on 3S LiPo. So any time that I did testing, I tested on 3S, because if it works fine on 3S, it's going to have no problems on 2S's in the rocks. Two S's. What about 0 S's? We can go extra slow, huh? All right, so that's the rundown. A slow enough motor to deal with the gear reduction that this system has, which is enough. And then we have the 1080. And what I will do just real quick, we will have a programming guide as well, but we'll just show you this on video. And this is the programming that I personally want on mine. Maybe you want some other stuff, but we will go through that in more detail in a future video. So they call this guy an 8th scale vehicle. What are my thoughts on that? I will tell you that I think it's a fair assessment. However, just because you call something 8th scale doesn't necessarily mean it's any bigger or smaller than other rigs in the market. I have a feeling that they called it 8th scale because it comes with 2.2 rims. And in the past, we have plenty of 2.2s. The entire market was originally based off of 2.2 vehicles. And I hit it for myself. Here you go. Here is a prime example. This is the Wraith. This was one of the first popular 2.2, if not the first popular 2.2 on the market. As far as the tires that I currently have on it, about the same height of tires. The wheelbase is just a skosh shorter. I want to say this was set up for 12.5 inch wheelbase, which was originally the USRCCA 2.2 comp class specs, and a lot of people followed that. Now we have, Sorca stuff, some other stuff where you can have a slightly longer wheelbase, and so as you can see, the wheelbase is slightly longer. But as far as the size of the rig, this was considered a 10th scale rig. The width on them, we could consider the axle width. The Marksman is slightly wider, but I narrowed up my Wraith to make it as narrow as it was. So you could certainly adjust these to be a little bit wider, a little bit taller tires, bigger footprint or whatever. So, in my opinion, they could have called it a 10th scale and it would really just be as suitable. They could have called it an 8th scale, which they did, and just as suitable. It does have a pretty big body though. And so when we consider the wheelbase of it, when we consider the overall height, the capability of the rig, it wheels. I was extremely surprised with how well this guy wheels. So they did an extremely good job of setting it up. Just the suspension geometry, even though it is the same axles and the same chassis layout, the geometry just worked out so much better. And on the bench, you can see that, there's some body roll to it. But it just works. There's a little bit of axle swing on the 3-link suspension, and so maybe not as ideal as some of the comp crawlers that I would be used to putting together, to where we really spend so much effort to get all that suspension near perfect. For what this guy is and how it wheels and the impressions that I got on the rocks, which I got a lot of time on the rocks, they did a really good job setting this up. So if you're thinking about this vehicle, don't discount it being an 8th scale rig. Don't discount it being essentially a Wendigo, because it is not. It doesn't drive like one at all. And as I said before, I would not have worked with Redcat on this if I wasn't extremely pleased with this vehicle. So I think that really goes over most of my first impressions on this. They did a really good job of hiding everything underneath. It is really more of a true scale sort of rig, to where you can't see any of the electronics on there. They left us placements to put scale winches on the front. They have light buckets so that we can put headlights in it in the future. And I'm not sure what the final retail price is going to be of these. Just go to a website and check them out, A-Main or whoever, go to Redcat's website. I know it's going to be a good value, especially with the electronics, the nice shocks on there, the axles that are very, very beefy for a crawler's needs. And really, what more is there to say about it? So let me know in the comments if there's something that I did not cover on this. I will do my best to get to them. Sometimes, we do have a whole lot of comments and I sometimes miss them, but I will certainly do my best to get all of that taken care of. And let's see, let's look at the approach and the departure. Actually, the approach is really nice. Really, really nice there. Probably better than a lot of my other rigs. And the departure, not so crazy, but it's probably also going to keep you from flipping over backwards if you're on a normal normal climb. So that's about right. I don't see that most rigs are going to be able to use much more than that, and it kind of gives you a safety as far as just flipping backwards. So overall impression, very, very pleased with this rig. Let's go over the accessories before we end. You will need to provide your own battery. They have a Dean's plug on there, which I'll be switching out to an XT60. They provide the radio. You will need 4 AA's for that. They provide the Hobbywing program card, which it has instructions on how to use it. We'll have a informational video on programming. They have this little accessory pack, a couple of, let's see, looks like a tire carrier, something like that, some sand ladders, some jerry cans. Oh, they got a T-wrench for me. You know how I love T-wrenches. And looks like maybe a little, what is this? I don't know what all these pieces are on there. Some extra link ends, ball ends, whatever you want to call them. But yeah, very nice. Oh, some extra clips. Very nice, very nice. They will come in handy. And of course, the instruction booklet here, which you know what I do with instruction booklets. Maybe if I need some replacement parts, it'll be handy. But knowing how stout this is, probably won't need them. Once again, I do thank you for tuning in. If you have any specific questions about this rig, please post them below. I'll do my best to get to them. As always, have a good day.